Thank you so much for joining on the fourth day of the Hidradenitis Suppurativa Awareness Virtual Summit. I'm so grateful to have you here with me. This whole process has been a labor of love, as you know. Before we get started, as always, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsors because without our sponsors, this wouldn't have happened. Every year we have new small businesses join and large corporations join and foundations who help to shape the community and help to inform our community. And so this year, we want to give a special shout out to not only Designs by Muriel, but hsconnect.org, Tanya Griffin Life and Wellness Center, Hydroware, Cleanse Skincare, My Magic Healer, the HS Foundation, 100-page journals, and Dermaleave. Thank you so much for either donating making monetary donations, prize donations, or helping us to just elevate our marketing as well. Thank you so much for your help. It means the world that you have supported us for now our third year of doing this summit. This year, we decided to focus on really providing patients with the tools to take their healing into their own hands. As you may or may not know, a lot of patients are turning to naturopathic medicine, plant medicine, and holistic care to help lower the inflammation and heal some of the symptoms that are associated with HS. And so this summit is really geared towards providing viable information and trusted sources because there are businesses, estheticians, and different individuals that are online claiming they have cures and taking advantage of patients who are debilitated and sick and are feeling hopeless. And so what we wanted to do this year is really provide patients with individuals they can go to really gain more knowledge about the things they're curious about. For an example, the first day we talked to Dr. Bisco, and she is a naturopathic physician. We have a bonus session with Dr. Eaglin, who is also a part of the clinic as well. And then we also talked to, on Tuesday, the second day, Sarah Nunez, who talked more about plant medicine and how we can use that to heal some of the external or manage some of the external symptoms that we deal with HS. And we even did a live salve demonstration and a poultice mixing demonstration as well. So I'm really excited for today because we're focusing on colon hydrotherapy. I want to get started by introducing Diana. Diana is a part of Complete Trinity Soul Sanctuary, a colon hydrotherapy clinic here out in Los Angeles. And I want to give her the space to introduce herself and to tell you a little bit more about her practice in colon hydrotherapy before we dive into the conversation. I'm gonna pass it to you, Diana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, Jasmine. I'm happy to be here. So beautiful day today in Los Angeles and happy to share in this space with you. So I have been practicing colon hydrotherapy for about 11 years now. And we've treated roughly, I don't know, close to maybe 8,000-9,000 people since then. And it's been quite an interesting journey in discovering different needs, different purposes, different aspirations for what colon hydrotherapy can do for people in healing further along and creating a better lifestyle for them. So yeah, I've just been a part of this for this long, only through my own trauma and my own needs for wanting to alleviate and repair a lot of body ailments, including mental ailments, because when we hold toxins in the colon for too long, it also affects the psyche. So it's one of these things that it's all encompassing, mind, body, and spirit, hence why we call it Complete Trinity, because it does encompass all three. And That's why when we approach colon hydrotherapy, it's just not from, I guess, a holistic or medical perspective. It's definitely affecting everything, including the mind, the emotions, and including the spirit, because the spirit does open up as well once we do take on cleansing the body.
So I wanted to get the conversation started by talking about introducing our attendees to how you got into colon hydrotherapy yourself. There's a little bit of information on your website about some of your own traumatic experiences that led you into colon hydrotherapy. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. I grew up primarily what I would liken to maybe being raised in a crime scene, because there was a lot of violence in my home, which creates a lot of fear and definitely creates a lot of um, colon issues. I was afraid to go to the bathroom if I heard fighting in the house with my parents. I was afraid to use the bathroom or go anywhere at all, because I just felt like if I did anything or moved out of, without permission, that I would get in trouble. Um, on top of that, within that trauma, you know, one of my parents was hyper obsessed about my weight and controlling. And I don't know if this was part of her own trauma, that she needed to control me because she needed to control something, right? So she had me on laxatives from the time I was 9 until I was in my early 20s. Um, I was definitely going through the aspect of weight gain, weight loss, severe weight loss, lots of acne, lots of flare-ups on my skin, lots of with the constipation, because I was on the regimen of taking the laxatives and not eating at all. Minimal water, it caused severe constipation, which caused eventually the actual weight gain that she was trying to avoid. And then also the flare-ups. I had severe acne on my back. I had rashes on my arms. I had severe acne all over my face. From the mental perspective, it definitely created a lot of depression, mood swings. And at that time, when I reached about 23, I didn't go to the bathroom for a month. And I was on the verge of suicide. So it's when I had a good friend of mine said, you don't look good. Your skin doesn't look good. You just look like you're completely miserable. When was the last time you went to the bathroom? And I'm like, honestly, I think it's been about a month or over a month now. And she says, you're going to die if you don't do something about this, or you're going to end up with a severe illness. She says, you need colon hydrotherapy. And I tried, the open system. There's 2 different colonic systems. I tried the closed system first, I'm sorry. And I wasn't that convinced that it was really going to change me. I felt good initially, but I didn't have any overall changes. And once I started doing the open system, which is the system that I use my practice here, I started to notice that I was retraining my colon. I was starting to go to the bathroom on my own. I didn't need any more laxatives. But yeah, it's finally when I was tired of being tired, I took that chance. I followed my colon hydrotherapist advice, and we took it on. I was very aggressive, and I did 6 colonics every other day or every couple of days. And by the time I was done with the 6th colonic, I finally had the first bowel movement at home without a laxative. And it was the beginning of my colon hydrotherapy journey. About a couple of years later is when I started looking for starting my own venture, and it seemed to be like the perfect fit.
And did you start in Los Angeles or were you someplace else? Are you born and raised in Los Angeles?
Yes, born and raised in Los Angeles, moved to the Valley where we are around 3 years old. And I've been here ever since. Traveled, of course, but been here ever since.
Absolutely. And I know that you all, what attracted me personally to your space was the combination of not only colon hydrotherapy, but consciousness of like mind, body, and spirit. So it wasn't
Yeah.
just a practice coming into a clinic. It wasn't like this sterile experience. It really felt like you were giving a spa experience along with
Right.
education and things like that. Can you talk about why that's important in this process and what led you to creating that type of environment for people who are coming in?
Absolutely. As a client, I went to a couple of different places, and the aesthetics, the windows open, the traffic, the phone calls and everything. It was so disturbing. And for me, being an introvert and being very private, I wanted more privacy. I wanted a serene, dim lit space, a place where I felt like I could really let go. I was worried that people were going to hear or smell or, whatever the case may be. I really wanted those things noticed and taken care of. And so when I created my space, I created that. So our rooms are very nicely dim. They're very private. They're away from the main reception area. You can totally feel like no one can hear anything, no one can see anything. You're also very well taken care of. We come in to check up on you, which a lot of colon hydrotherapists don't do, unfortunately, and they don't come in to make sure you're okay. Sometimes people throw up, sometimes people feel really nauseous. So you have to be aware of that. And when I started to see people unfold, as I did with my own journey, people started to see angel numbers. People started to see 1111 and 222 and 333. And people would say, I'm dreaming these things and I'm seeing these numbers. What's happening to me? And I already knew because I was already on a spiritual journey. And I started to see that when people started to clear the colon, something would click and something came into alignment where all of a sudden their intuitive gifts started to come in. They were more telepathic. They were more, I don't want to use just the intuition of their natural abilities started to really come in. They started to manifest things. They started to have a different zest and vigor for what they wanted to do in life, where they felt really stagnant and kind of frozen and at a standstill. All of a sudden, they were willing to go and move out of their parents' house or start a new business or leave their marriages that they were like miserable in. I've had women completely chop off their hair because they're renewing themselves, got new boyfriends, and just things that really started to inspire them. And then I had women, men like, hey, I'm doing poetry now. Hey, I'm taking vocal lessons now. I'm doing tennis or I'm learning how to play the cello. So it's something clicked where the mental freed up and so did the spirituality. So people started to channel things and wanting to be more creative. And I really started to tie in how it was all encompassing. Once people started to come to me and go, hey, what is that? What's really happening to me? I feel like I've opened up. I'm seeing the angel numbers. I'm hearing messages, but now what do I do with this information? And so that's when I started to step into my shamanic work. And that's when I started serving medicines from the jungle as well, because I do shamanic work and serve medicines from the Amazon. So seeing how relieving the ailments in the body free up the mind for you to be in your creativity and the openness where that starts to attach to the spirituality. And now you're able to download new information, download new gifts, and start channeling these amazing abilities that actually help you manifest a much more inspiring life for yourself and others around you. And now you feel like you're more in tune with your community, not only with yourself. Now you want to see how you can serve others. And that's really the purpose and the mission is just what can I do for others by taking care of myself.
And it's interesting that you say that because for the individuals who might not be at the level of spirituality that you or I or anybody else are, I want to clarify too that like, when we think about the gut, it's, you know, it's known as our second brain. So if the gut's unbalanced, the bacteria that's in our gut helps to feed our whole body. So if that is out of balance, and if you have bad bacteria overgrowth, then that also affects how you think. Your anxiety causes anxiety, depression. It can cause, you know, suicidal ideation. It can cause laziness, things of that nature, or withdrawal from everyday life just because you're not feeling well. And so the release of waste from the body, and correct me if I'm wrong, is allows for your body to really function as it's intended to, for you to have more energy, for you to be able to think clearly, to not have brain fog and things of that nature, right?
One of the primary complaints, you know, with the intake forms that we have here is people will talk about it like, I'm so forgetful, I have brain fog, I'm completely moody. So we definitely see that there's a deterrent there when there's too much toxin sitting in the body, we can't think clearly. And the analogy that I use, it's like you're kind of like drunk on your toxins, just like when we're drunk on alcohol, we make misjudgments, right? We think that we're okay and we can get behind the wheel and drive when we're that drunk. When really we're not. We shouldn't be on the road. We shouldn't be driving when we're that inebriated. So right now, the way when we're very toxic, we are functioning from an inebriated body. So we can't make correct choices for ourselves. So we stay at the wrong job for too long. We stay in that toxic relationship for too long. We stay eating the wrong foods for too long. We start drinking alcohol, smoking weed, smoking nicotine, hookah, whatever it is that we keep putting into our body that we think is helping us by numbing ourselves. It's really only furthering the inebriation or the drunkenness of the body to make poor choices. And so that eventually manifests into a miserable, miserable life. So, and we can see it, and people feel stuck. And then they start running this cycle of madness, like being on a hamster wheel of misery. But they don't know how to fix it because they're too drunk to see it until they clear their body.
Absolutely. And before we get into like the myths and the truths about colon hydrotherapy, I wanted to take a moment to explain what the procedure is. Can you take us through the intake process all the way to, you know, when patients are leaving, or, you know, people are coming in and leaving out and whatnot from the
Yeah,
session?
absolutely. I mean, your first time visit with me is 90 minutes. First half hour, you'll fill out some paperwork, and it's very, very detailed. I don't just ask you, you know, what you eat and stuff and what your daily habits are. I go in depth, like, tell me what ails you. I don't want to know what just is going on now. I want to know what happened 3, 5 years ago. And then you'll give me the gist of it. And I very much adhere to a blood type diet as well. That seems to help a lot of my clients personally. And then once I see, and you know, then the questions will further ask, you know, are you seeing angel numbers? Like, what are you experiencing spiritually? Are you here for other reason other than the physical? Once they fill out those forms, they start expanding on what they filled out in that paperwork, and I really start to dig in. And intuitively, I start to pick up on certain aspects of what may have triggered those things to begin with. I take you into the room, I give you an intro, show you how to set yourself up on a table, show you what's going to happen once the tube is inserted. I guide you through it. Once I see that you've got the hang of it, I leave you alone and let you process the first few minutes by yourself. After I've seen, you know, kind of like the initial releases have happened, I come in, and then, you know, with your permission, I start massaging your belly, seeing what it is I can figure out and tune in. And I start asking you questions. You know, what was life like when you were little? How is your relationship with mom and dad? Any traumas that we should be talking about? Any relationship issues that we should be talking about? How is your work environment? Do you commute very long hours? Or, you know, are you commuting for very long hours? Do you have a very sedentary life, or a very sedentary type of life work environment where you're sitting in front of the computer for 8 to 10 hours a day? All of these things start to paint a whole story for me. And as they are purging physically, they start to purge verbally. So they start to tell me about, I was abused, I was raped, I was molested, I was hit very often, I was abandoned, then I was adopted, and then I went from foster home to foster home. And there's a whole gamut of stories that come with every single client. And as we start digging in, people start to purge emotionally, and then they start crying on the table. And as they are crying and as they are talking to me, we can watch the tube, and there's just like a tremendous release that is being expelled through the tube. And it becomes more and more profound. The first one, we kind of just tap in and just kind of dig in and just kind of give them a space to just release initially. And then we come in when they decide, and if they decide to come in for the second one, the purge is so much more profound. And then we really start to dig in because now they've surrendered. Now they're ready. They're hungry to be freed of their pain. They're hungry to create. They're hungry to release themselves from all of these toxic connections that they may have in their lives. And usually by the second to the third, we start to see some really profound changes with, guess what? I had that talk with my parents. And it was the first time in 20 years that I was able to sit and have a very frank discussion with my mom or my dad, or I quit my job and I'm scared and I don't know what this means, but you know what? I knew I needed to do this. I was just too afraid. So the colonic journey really starts to unfold at that point. And then people will keep in contact with me for years and start to say, guess what? I got married. I finally had kids. And, so for everyone is individual. Some people who are very resistant to opening up emotionally and spiritually, or they're not ready to stop smoking weed or stop drinking alcohol or nicotine, or they refuse to stop eating the foods that they know can make them very, very sick. I'll never see them again. And that's okay, because that's their journey, their choice. And either at some point we end up seeing them again, or, they have to choose a different modality for their healing, or worse, they may have to go to the doctor and they have to depend on medication. So, but everything is a choice, and everything is how tired are you of being sick and tired? And are you really truly ready to step into your healing?
Absolutely. And what information do you have about trauma and what that does to the gut? You mentioned that when we have traumatic experiences, that can create constipation in the body.
Yeah.
And obviously, a lack of proper nutrition, water, things that actually help our colons to function properly can also influence that as well. But how do our emotions, our minds, our thinking, and the things we experiment, the outside environmental factors, how does that influence our gut?
I mean, like they said, the gut is the second brain, and it's the intuitive part of ourselves. So whenever we are feeling that in some imminent danger is there, or something that we need to be stressed about, like at work, and we've got deadlines to meet, or I'm in an abusive relationship and my husband is he blows a fuse and I have to walk on eggshells around someone, or my boss at work, then what happens is that we become less comfortable in allowing our body to relax and release, okay? Or it could be the opposite end where it's IBS, and there are people who are so afraid and they're so worried about what's happening on the outside, and they're in such constant stress, and now they have diarrhea or both. So it really, really affects the colon. But what we see mostly when there's that type of trauma, the digestive issues become very, very chronic. And it could be like, and the thing is that what's crazy is most people don't know that they should be going to the bathroom every day. They just think, well, my norm is like once every 3 to 4 days, or I go once to twice a week, or I go every, maybe once every couple of weeks. And they start to train themselves to think that that's normal. And then they start to get sick, and they start to have skin issues, hearing issues, mental issues, weight gain, weight loss, whatever it is that this starts to affect their body, they definitely, you can make that connection that the psyche is definitely affected whenever the colon is compromised.
And I want to talk more about some of the skin inflammation. I know that you're not an expert on HS, hidradenitis suppurativa.
Right.
However, I know that in your practice, because we talked before, that you have seen individuals with different skin ailments come in to receive colon hydrotherapy. Our skin is our largest organ, and so our gut, Dr. Bisco, the first day of our session, was speaking about the gut skin connection and how the two influence each other. When you're doing colon hydrotherapy, what are some of the benefits that some patients have seen? And can we also talk about how realistic patients can be with session, like getting sessions done and also seeing like the results from the sessions?
Right. I can definitely say it's not a one and done. A lot of people think I'm going to get one colonic and all of these things are going to disappear. That's not true. It took me years to get here. It's not going to be an overnight process to get everything out. So you have to be in it for the journey. You have to allow yourself the time to actually heal. And for people with skin issues, the most visible, right? Acne, psoriasis, eczema, they'll have these huge patches of dry skin or cystic acne that's inflamed and just completely erupted. They'll say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And we'll start to evaluate, well, okay, well, what do you eat? What's in your diet? First, I'll say, what is your blood type? So for me, this is not something that's by the book or that every colon hydrotherapist does. This is just what I've seen benefits my clients personally, is an A blood type should have a vegan, vegetarian type of diet, predominantly fruits and vegetables and some grains. When we're looking at a B blood type, they're pescatarian and they should have, fish, maybe some seafood, fruits and vegetables. When we're looking at an AB blood type, then they can add some chicken, some turkey, some poultry, right? And then they have their fruits and vegetables. An O blood type should eat red meat, can still have some of the other meats, but fruits and vegetables. We're looking more of a paleo diet. Across the board, what I'm seeing with all of the blood types, when they consume too much starch, which creates the yeast or the candida in the colon, the skin flares up. You combine that with cheese or dairy, where it becomes filled with mucus, the two gel and bond together in the colon, creating like a gum type of consistency. And things will get stuck in the lining of the colon and cause the stagnation and the irritation and inflammation in the gut, which eventually because it can't come out through a normal bowel movement, it wants to erupt somewhere. So if we don't throw it up, it wants to now erupt through the skin. So you'll notice that people, a lot of times when there's a gut issue, they have skin issues, they have bad breath, they have issues with their vision, and they have, body odor that has to do with their, private parts too, or in the folds of their bodies, right? They start to develop a scent that shouldn't be there. Because again, if it can't come out the way that it's supposed to, it's either you're going to throw it up or it's going to erupt through the skin, which again is the largest organ of the body. Having all of these toxins, primarily, I don't know if you all are familiar with Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi is a holistic doctor that has now transitioned, and he was a huge proponent of not having yeast or mucus in the body, the two primary causes of diseases and ailments in the body. So we try to focus on that when we have the colonics done. So for me, when I do the colonics, I have learned to push people a little bit longer into their colonic, because those last 10, 15 minutes is where you purge the most toxins. And that's where we see the most candida being expelled, bile from the liver and the gallbladder, mucus. You can literally see just pieces of mucus all through the tube, along with potentially parasites and gas, the excess gas that builds up in the colon as well. So when we really start to see that they're expelling that much toxins at the end, and then they come back a week, 2 weeks later, and they'll say, look at my patch, it's shrunk. And the actual patches of dry skin from eczema, psoriasis, or the pustules that stick out through the skin, they start to diminish. The inflammation has gone down. And I'll say, what did you do different? Just say, I listened to what you recommended. Dietary was, you're so right. I can go to the bathroom. I'm eliminating more. I'm drinking more water. I'm staying hydrated. Being able to poop more on a regular basis has really released the flare-ups. And I had someone that had a humongous patch on their belly. And he saw me, I think, for 6 sessions. And by the time he was done with that last session, that patch was almost completely gone. And I mean, it was so big and it was so thick and it was so flaky above his skin. And he had them on his legs and on his buttocks too. And all of it was all dissipating. And he's like, I cannot believe that because of this, when I've gone to doctors and they've given me pills and they've given me topical ointments to put on top of my skin, nothing helped until this. It's like I'm in shock that because of colon hydrotherapy, I've been able to attain this type of progress.
Absolutely. I love that. I love those examples of different people have come in with different skin conditions and going through this session. It makes me think of what are some of the risks that are involved with colon hydrotherapy, because I know when I came in, there was a list of different ailments. If you have these certain conditions, that colon hydrotherapy is very much not recommended for you. So
Yeah.
could you talk about some of the risks that are involved with colon hydrotherapy so that our attendees can also be educated on that aspect as well?
You know, the textbook version of all of the contraindications of what we should and shouldn't do are very, safe. But I do sometimes push the limit a little bit more to see how much more healing we can get. And we've been very successful. The ones that I will completely say, no, this isn't for you, is if we're looking at colon cancer that is currently present, there's rectal bleeding currently present, diarrhea currently present, you're vomiting and that's currently present. If there is Crohn's, diverticulitis, diverticulosis, I would probably venture to say that that's already the inflammation that became because we didn't clear out the colon in the first place. So we will, try with one session, see how that goes. And the inflammation starts to go down. And some of our clients will even say, you know what, I went to the doctor, none of that is present now. So, but of course, again, with an inflamed colon, we have to see what the diagnosis is. If they've had a colonoscopy, they will tell us. But so far, the worst that's happened is someone will throw up because these toxins are so accumulated in the gut that they had to come out both ways. And again, with the system that we have, the open system, the tube being only about the size of a number 2 pencil, the water flow is so gentle that you're in control. You're in control the whole entire time. And you can decide if it's getting too uncomfortable and you can pull away from your tube whenever you're ready. And you can say, no, I don't think this is for me. But luckily, a lot of people will push through and they see amazing, amazing results.
How do you know the difference between experiencing discomfort to the point where you need to take the tube out or you need to stop the colon hydrotherapy session and something that you need to push through? Like, what are the differences? What can you notice in the body? What are some things that we can be aware of?
There are people that, for one, there's a lot of fear and anxiety that comes in, a lot of fear and anxiety. And that will trigger and heighten the experience of what the colon hydrotherapy session will be like, right? If I can get them to calm down and to really become present in their body and get them in a place where they feel completely safe, then we can get that part out of the way, okay? Once we can have them in a very calm, deep breathing state of mind, and they can start to surrender and let go. Then we start to monitor the physical symptoms. So if they start to get really lightheaded, or they feel like they're on the verge of passing out or fainting, then we turn off the water and we ask them to take a break. We ask them to reevaluate what is it that they're feeling. If they start to say, I'm really scared, I don't know what's happening. Why am I cramping so much? What's happening to me? Then we talk it through for about 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, they start to gain their composure and I'll say, do you feel like you can continue? And they'll say, you know what? I was just afraid. Let's continue. If they feel, no, I feel like it's my blood pressure. I feel like it's, something's happened. I'll say, you know what? Let's end the session here, just to be safe. And then of course, when people are too scared, they'll pull away altogether. Just like, I can't, I thought this was for me. I just can't, because sometimes the cramping alone or vomiting is too overwhelming. Some people have a very deep-seated fear of throwing up. There are people who literally go into a sobbing cry because they've thrown up. Or if they have diarrhea or they've had like food poisoning, it in itself is extremely traumatic. So if that's already traumatic for you, where cramping is going to be that intense, then colon hydrotherapy isn't for you, because that just comes with the territory. Of course, once the detoxing has happened and you've had a very thorough purge, then you can come back and you'll see that every colonic is going to get easier and easier and easier. I have people who are on Zoom calls and conference calls and watching movies. I've had people fall asleep. I've even had people orgasm on the table because they're so relaxed. So it's the first 1 to 3 sessions that are the most intense, because it's when we have to detox the deepest.
Absolutely. And I wanted to go back because we talked about the actual process.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? What do we need to do to prep ahead of time, and then what needs to happen directly after a session? Because I know with colon hydrotherapy, you're clearing out all the good and bad bacteria. So
Correct.
maybe a pre or probiotic might help. But I wanted you to speak more about that.
Definitely, no matter what blood type you are, especially if you don't know what blood type you are, 3 to 5 days, stay away from red meat, stay away from cheese, stay away from starches. Okay? I want you to eat very light and clean. If you eat meat, chicken, fish are okay. If you don't eat meat, fine. But vegetables, fruits, and you definitely want to drink lots of water. Definitely lots of lemon water. Now, this is something that I've taken on personally and have asked my clients to do, and we see amazing results because it helps during the actual colonic session. So I tell them, get 3 lemons worth of lemon juice and put it in your water. So you want to do about 8 ounces of water at night, 8 ounces of water with that much lemon in the morning as well. And then drink a full glass of water right after that. And then things will really start to move. If you don't have time to do that, at least if you've started doing the lemon water, then by the time you come in for your colonic, your stool is softer and looser, so that when you get on the table, we don't have to work through such brutal cramping to actually release. The pre-prep is so crucial. I had a client who said, hey, I'm getting a colonic tomorrow. I'm going to have a whole pizza. And it was a large pizza, and he ate it by himself the night before. He literally released nothing. He was livid because he came in, he had to pay for the session, and he literally released nothing. I have no control over how you pre-prep, but we made it very clear. You have to do your pre-prep. You have to stay away from the cheese and starches and the red meat. The longer you stay away from this stuff, the easier your colonic is going to be when you come in.
I wanted to, yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask too. I was reading that if you're pregnant, a colon hydrotherapy is not recommended. And then I also had a question about what if you're on your period, or if you're a person who has periods, is it recommended to come in for these sessions if you're pregnant or if you have your period?
Totally. So if you're pregnant, you can't have a colon hydrotherapy during the first or the third trimester. Those are the most sensitive trimesters. The middle one is okay, but you still have to have a doctor's note to make sure you're okay. Because if you've had a difficult pregnancy, you definitely don't just want to say, oh, it's my second trimester, it's safe. No, we need to figure out from your doctor at that point if it truly is safe, and we're not going to induce labor during the session. As far as your period, you can absolutely come in when you're on your menstrual cycle. However, if you tend to cramp, severe cramping during your menstrual cycle, I suggest you wait as soon as the cramps are over. And then once the cramps are over, come in. And as you're cleansing with the actual menstrual cycle, the colon hydrotherapy can actually help to pull more toxins out. You feel amazing afterwards, and your skin looks even better after the colon hydrotherapy too.
I'm wondering too, patients we have patients from all and attendees from all across the world.
Okay.
They might not have access to someone as amazing as you or your clinic. So, what would you recommend for vetting colon hydrotherapists when wanting to get a session? What are the do's, the don'ts, the red flags that we should be mindful of?
Well, a colon hydrotherapist should be hyper in tune to your fear, your anxiety about getting one in the first place, because it's an unknown. You don't know what you don't know, right? So not knowing creates a lot of fear behind that. And then if a colon hydrotherapy or a colon hydrotherapist is going to be condescending, short, impatient with you, then they're going to be somewhat similar with you in the room, hands down. Because I hear so many times from my clients, they're like, you are the first person that actually heard me. You are the first person that actually was willing to take my call, have 5-10 minutes to answer all of my questions so I can make a proper decision. If they're trying to rush you off the phone, they'll just say, no, you have to book if you want to talk to us. Then you're probably not going to be able to surrender or have a very good release. Now, that doesn't mean that that's everybody, because some people don't have that much fear. If you're all in, you're like, hey, I want to go get this, then you don't need a colon hydrotherapist to be that in tune to you to actually give you a good session. They will give you a good session. But if we're talking about specific ailments in the body, if we're talking about fear and anxiety or PTSD, these things are something that they should be hyper aware about, hyper in tuned about, and caring about, that they will nurture that part of your journey into your colonic so that you can have a much better release, and you can open up to them as they're trying to help you release as well. Unfortunately, colon hydrotherapy isn't as popular, even though it's been around for 2,500 years. No one wants to openly admit, like, hey, I like to go poop at this facility. So it's not a very popular profession. So I will normally find that colon hydrotherapists exist primarily in cities that are very health conscious, or we're looking at big cities in general. You know, we're looking at LA, Chicago, San Francisco. You can find all kinds of colon hydrotherapists here. But if we're looking at like a small town place, they'll be like, huh, what? I don't even know what that is. So you most likely, you might have to travel to the nearest large city and look for a colon hydrotherapist there. The other thing that could be a little bit difficult too is some people only do the closed because that's what they're familiar with, or that's the only system available in that city or town, and they won't have the small or the open system that we do here with the smaller tubes.
And can we talk about actually, well, yeah, let me ask that question before my next one. Can we talk about the difference between the open and the closed system? What is that? What are the differences?
The open system is about the system that we have. Or let me start with the closed system. The closed system is the older, more traditional one. The tube is about the size of a quarter, like size of a quarter circumference. That's about the thickness of the tube, okay? And it goes in about 7 inches into the rectum. Usually you're on your side when it's inserted, the therapist guides it in and then stays with you the whole entire time. They'll either keep you on your side or they'll roll you back on your back so that you can now release it. But the tube is much larger because the same tube that pushes everything in will suck everything back out into the enclosure of the tube. That's why it's called a closed system. Where with the open system, the tube is only about the size of a number 2 pencil. So this is kind of close to a number 2 pencil here. That's about the thickness of the tube that we have. And its job is only to filter the water into the belly, and it gently fills. It's not like a water hose, because everyone's like, oh my God, it's like a fire hose. It's gonna blast my gut. It's not like that. And I promise you that's the main fear. Water comes in very gently into the colon. It fills it, and it's like soaking your dishes in hot water. You want to allow the water to sit there. You want to hold, and you let the water sit in there so that it can soften and loosen the stool. And then when you feel the cramping get a little bit intense and you're like, I can't hold it anymore, you have full autonomy, full liberty to release when you want to. With the closed system, you can't release until the therapist tells you to. So with this one, you can just release at your own pace, and you can have some privacy, because I don't have to stay in the room with you the whole time. I do come back to check up on you every 15 minutes or so to make sure that you're good. Make sure you're not nauseous. Make sure that you're still not afraid, that maybe some emotions haven't come up that we need to talk about, because people will end up crying in the room, or that, at worst case scenario, that you don't have to throw up.
And is there one that's recommended over the other? I know that when I came in, we were speaking about sort of the history of colon hydrotherapy, and that the open system is really what was used throughout history, and the closed system is rather newer. Can we talk a little bit more about what might be recommended?
They both work beautifully. They do both help. For me and my own personal journey, because I had no peristalsis, the laxatives made my colon so lazy that I had no need to go to the bathroom. I just had no sensation of wanting to poop at all for a month. So when I realized that my colon was that dormant, um, the closed system helped get stuff out, but I didn't feel a difference afterwards. I didn't feel like pooping or getting that sensation of wanting to poop after. When I followed my last colon hydrotherapist advice, and she said, do them every other day. I want you to do 6 sessions. Just trust me. You're going to stay away from these foods. This is what you're going to do. And I did it. After about 2 days, 3 days after, I had my first bowel movement without a laxative. So for me personally, the open system is like being in the gym for your gut. You're in the gym, you're holding, you're pushing, you're holding, you're pushing. So that starts to slowly retrain the gut or the colon to gain that peristalsis muscle, so that you can start pooping again, or having the sensation of wanting to go to the bathroom again.
Absolutely. And I wanted to circle back to talking about some of the red flags with hydrotherapists. What harm can be done if there is an inexperienced specialist working on someone, just so that people can be mindful?
Um, some of the things that I've understood or seen is that, especially now when it's the closed system, the therapist is with you the whole entire time. They don't leave you, right? With the open system, it's a little tricky, because a lot of colon hydrotherapists some colon hydrotherapists that use the open system, they think you put the tube in and then we turn on the water and then I'll see you at the end of the session. It's not how it works. Because if you can't release, the pain could be super, super intense. So the colon hydrotherapist should be in there to turn off the water, allow you to release, to release with the water off. You can leave them alone, or you can stay with them. Or if they get to the point that because it's not coming out that way, it has to come out this way and they need to throw up. Is there a bucket available? Is there something near you where you can throw up? So because some people go unmonitored, either the pain and the cramping gets too intense for them, or they end up throwing up and no one's around to help them through that process. Or worst case scenario is someone may pass out on the table. So you have to have someone constantly checking up on you.
Absolutely. One of the last questions I want to ask is about the affordability of these sessions.
Mhm.
How much do these procedures cost, and how affordable is it for someone who might need to get 6 sessions to be able to feel like themselves again or be able to allow the body to start healing in the natural ways that it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, 95, especially after COVID, inflation and everything, the lowest I've seen is like $95. And depending on how affluent the neighborhood or the town is, they can go up to $250 to $300 a colonic. Um, I kind of like to ride the in between. I have a brick and mortar. I'm still here recovering after the pandemic. So I've raised my prices to 111, which isn't too far from 95, where some of the lower ones are at now. But we also have 11 years under a belt. And according to our area in Los Angeles, I believe someone said in Los Angeles now, we have been moved to the #1 slot. So that in itself speaks volumes. However, even though we are in that #1 slot, I can't fathom charging people $250, to $300 a session for something like this, because I know so many people need it. After the pandemic, when people were at home, they were working from home, they weren't exercising, they were super depressed, they were drinking alcohol more, smoking weed more. Their colons took a major, major hit. So people were extremely desperate to come in after the pandemic. And for me to take advantage of that by charging them more would be an injustice, because people are here desperate because the doctors have a condescending tone. They all they want to prescribe is pills, and they don't understand that it's something that needs to be taken out, not something needs to be put in. And they need help. And so I do the middle ground. I think that that's fair for me as an entrepreneur trying to come out of the pandemic and keep my business alive, and also still keeping my clients in mind and their safe, their well-being in mind as well.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to leave this space for any last comments or any thoughts regarding hydrotherapy and the skin, the gut connection. Is there anything else that you would recommend for any attendees who are curious about exploring this path?
Definitely. Let's look at your organs. If you feel that your kidneys need some attention, your liver needs some attention, or there's potential parasites, consider doing some cleanses that you can do in conjunction with colonics. Because when we have too much yeast in the body, we definitely maybe need to take on doing a candida cleanse, or doing a liver flush, where we need to, because we've been drinking so much or we've been taking medication for too long, our poor liver will take a major toll. So consider doing these types of cleanses to enhance the detox of the body. And now after you've done the colonics, all of your organs, not just your gut, are working more optimally. And now you're at a state where you can definitely avoid any type of future diseases.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you so much for all of that abundant information. I know that I've learned a lot. I knew some of this information, but I definitely learned some new things. I hope that this was beneficial for the attendees today. If you all have any questions, let us know. But I would like to say thank you because I know that you have to leave in about 3 minutes. But I really appreciate you for taking the time to speak with us. And if anybody had any questions or wanted to reach out to you, is that possible? And if so,
Absolutely.
how could they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Now, I do say we've been pretty swamped. I've been taking about 16 clients a day. So we've been extremely busy, but I do respond to all of my emails. So just reach me at Diana or Diana at Complete Trinity. And people can just send me an email, and I promise you I'll get back to you. Or we can just, maybe hop on a call. And then if you're not in my city, I can even help you find a place near you where you can find a colon hydrotherapist that you can go to nearby.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
Very welcome.
Um,
Thank you for
I
having me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking with the attendees about my personal experience with colon hydrotherapy, just because I do have HS, and although I'm not I'm not a hydrotherapist or anything like that, and I'm not necessarily trying to provide any medical advice. I would like to just provide some perspective. When I was last year in the pandemic, my body completely broke down. I was completely sick and debilitated because my I was constipated, and to the point where I couldn't stand longer than 30 seconds without feeling I was going to pass out.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick. I wasn't feeling well. I had eczema all, let my mom tell it. My hands were completely black. Down my arms had black marks and everything like that. And I had, patches here all throughout my hands. It was really, really terrible. And I was looking for solutions because I was just like, okay, I'm not making a bowel movement. And I think that that is the issue. I didn't have anything to back that up, but I was just listening to my body. I was like, if I can't expel waste, then clearly something is going on. So I went to the doctor. I took laxatives. That wasn't helping. And so I remembered one of my friends worked in colon hydrotherapy back in Detroit, from where I'm from. I'm living in Los Angeles now. And so I started searching on Yelp, Googling colon hydrotherapy around, near me. And I found Complete Trinity Soul Sanctuary. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Diana on, is because of my very positive experience. Of course, there is no cure for HS. However, colon hydrotherapy did help for my body to get to the space where it could start healing naturally. And did it get rid of all my HS? No, it did not. However, it was definitely not as bad as it was, because I had skin separating from my body. I had wounds that just would not close. I had boils that were growing on my legs, my ears, the back of my earlobes. It was just bad. And so I do still experience some of that now. And I know that's probably because of the sugar intake and the starches that I'm eating. But however, as you can see, I don't have any eczema on my arms.
Your
My
skin is beautiful.
Thank you. And my HS, even though I do still have it, I still have the wounds, the scar tissue. It definitely is not as aggressive as it was before. And I'm not feeling sick. I'm not feeling foggy. My depression and anxiety has gotten better. My issues with suicidal ideation have gotten better. I've been able to take steps in my life to get to where I need to go, and to operate in the ways that I need to operate. And I thank colon hydrotherapy for opening that up for me. And of course,
And, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but definitely we can't control what you do once you leave our doors. But the experience of colon hydrotherapy can already change and shift your cravings for certain foods, your outlook on things that you want to do to change your lifestyle. So this gives you the kind of like this swift kick in your butt for you to go out there and just go, I'm really going to do this, because it helps you pull away the stuff that makes you inebriated in the mind, right? Which we were talking about that before. So once it clears the mind, then when you go out there, you'll be like, you know what? I need to pull away from starches. I need to pull away from cheese. I really need to start drinking more water, eating healthier, staying away from these toxic environments, and you really start to make better judgments. But colon hydrotherapy is that push that you need to make those changes and make those changes be long term.
absolutely. And I do want to reiterate too that this is what worked for me. I was listening to my body, and I advise you to do the same. Pay attention on what your body is telling you. Like, for example, it's not like your body is going to start speaking words. Like, that's not how it works. But you'll feel feelings. For an example, I felt cramping. I couldn't use the bathroom. I literally couldn't use the bathroom, or if I did, it would come out as not full stools, and I could feel something trying to get out, but it couldn't. And I was feeling sick. And so those were the signs, and that was my body communicating with me,
Right.
saying there's something going on. Did I know what? No, but I definitely was like, I need to figure it out. And it's a journey, and it's a marathon. It's not a race, and it does get frustrating too. I just want to say that as
Yeah.
well.
And like, again, like I said at the very beginning, it's not a one and done. If you do one, you're not going to get the benefit, the full experience of releasing the cravings and actually having the shift in your energy and the clarity to help you make those changes. If you do just that one, you're going to go back to those old patterns and you're going to stay stuck longer. Allow yourself to go through the whole entire process. And then afterwards, people always ask me, so what should I do now, Diana? I'll say, you know what? Tune in. Now you don't need me to tell you what to do anymore. Now you are your own internal GPS and you can navigate yourself. You can make the better decision. Not me, not any other doctors. You know now how to heal yourself. In your own gut, you're going to build this rapport with your own body that you're going to know so deeply what your body needs next.
Absolutely. And piggybacking off of the one and done, I remember I booked 3 sessions. In the first 3 sessions, I didn't experience any, I mean, there was a little bit of relief, but I didn't experience what I needed to. So I did 2 more. And so on the fifth try, it was either the fourth or fifth. Um, I I did not realize that I was going to throw up. I threw up. And then I also released everything. And I felt completely better after that. It didn't instantly, like, my skin didn't instantly, like, clear up, like, everything went away.
Yeah,
It took time. Like, from then, I think it was last year that I got my last session, like, towards the end of the year to now. And my skin was healed. But that's because also I'm continuing to follow an anti inflammatory diet and things of that nature.
precisely. Mm-hmm.
um, because I was doing that before, but I don't know all the science behind it, but I don't think my body was retaining the nutrients of the AIP diet, because I had the other foods that were bad for me still stuck in my colon, the waste from
Yeah.
that different food. Um,
Remember, start from a clean slate. Get all the old out first. Then whatever you decide to put back into your body, now your body can absorb it better and can actually distribute it better and more appropriately into all the organs that need it. So if you're putting like the proper diet, but on top of a toxic colon, you're not going to feel the difference. You got to start from a clean slate. You got to get the old stuff out, and then your body can actually, work like a well-oiled machine now. Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, and
So very welcome. Thank you
I'm
for
very
having me.
absolutely. I'm very grateful for you. Very grateful for your expertise. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in for the fourth day. Tomorrow is our last session, and we'll be speaking with Lindsay, who will be helping us to understand how to transmute trauma. How do we deal with the emotional energy of having a chronic illness? How do we start healing our minds, our bodies, and our souls, so that we can begin living the lives that we want to? All of these sessions have been about addressing naturopathic medicine, to plant medicine, to colon hydrotherapy, but now we're talking about the emotional energy that we deal with HS. And so please tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m., 7 p.m. EST, 4 p.m. PST. And Lindsay will be guiding us through some things like breath work, somatic work. And I'm really excited for that session because, when we address the physical aspects of what's going on with our bodies, next we have to address our minds. That was one of the things that I had to realize, because when I went through the surgeries and I started getting better and I was in remission, I was still depressed, I was still sad, I was still anxious. And it was because I did not address the trauma of being diagnosed with a debilitating skin condition in 6th grade. I had no sex life. I had no dating life. I had no friendships that were viable because my life was taken from it by HS. And so I had to go to therapy. I had to face my shadows, my demons. I had to face myself. And so that's what tomorrow is about, facing ourselves. And how do we do that? And what are some of the safe environments that we can create so that we can do that? Thank you so much for today. And I will see you next time. Okay. Bye.